More secrets have been revealed about the ancient city of Teotihuacan.
Archaeologists in Mexico have come closer to discovering a lost tomb deep beneath an ancient pre-Aztec pyramid.
For decades, Teotihuacan was known as the City of the Gods, a masterpiece of ancient engineering holding massive pyramids. Over the years, archaeologists studied its temples, murals, and buried offerings, convinced that the city had already given up its secrets.
In 100 years of archaeological research in Teotihuacan, we still haven't found a ruler's grave.
However, just recently, deep beneath its stone avenues, something unexpected was found. A hidden tomb, sealed since the city's final days, containing something far more disturbing than anyone imagined. Join us in this video as we uncover the newly discovered terrifying secrets locked within the Teotihuacan. The terrifying secrets hidden beneath Teotihuacan. It was an archaeological expedition that day, and a team of trained archaeologists had set out to the site of the Teotihuacan. Initial digs had revealed simple wonders about the location, hinting towards more. As the archaeologists pushed deeper into the tunnel, what they sent chills and cold terror down the spine of everyone on the team. They expected to see offerings, broken figurines, symbolic items of devotion. Instead, they stumbled upon one of the strangest and most unsettling finds in the history of Mesoamerican archaeology: the River of Mercury. Hidden deep within the tunnel were channels and pools of liquid mercury. The silvery metal shimmered under artificial light, flowing as if the ancient builders had created an underground river that had persisted for nearly 2,000 years. The question of purpose arose immediately. Why would the builders of Teotihuacan, a culture already known for ritual sacrifice, fill their most sacred tunnels with such a lethal substance? Some archaeologists believe it was symbolic. To them, the reflective pools represented rivers or lakes of the underworld, an imagined landscape through which the dead would travel after death. The shimmering mercury would guide souls on their passage, acting as a bridge between the living and the realm of spirits. Others suspected something far more mysterious. Mercury is not easy to acquire, especially in such large quantities. Extracting it requires mining and specialized techniques, processes far beyond casual use. The fact that the ancient builders transported and deposited it deep within these sealed chambers suggested it served a purpose beyond mere symbolism. Some experts speculated that it may have been a kind of ritual technology, one we barely understand today. A few compared it to alchemy, noting that mercury has long been associated with mystical experiments in transformation. Others even suggested it could have had something to do with electricity, given mercury's conductive properties, though there is no evidence to support such a theory. More unsettling were reports suggesting that the mercury might have been intended as a deterrent. In this view, the liquid metal was not just a sacred river of the dead, but a trap, poison for anyone daring enough to disturb the chambers. The mercury was less an offering to the gods and more a weapon aimed at intruders from the future. Why did the ancients take that much of a precaution against intruders? What were they really protecting? Keep watching to find out. The hidden tomb. The atmosphere in the excavation shifted after this discovery. What had once felt like a careful search for hidden history began to feel more like trespassing into a space that had been deliberately locked away. The toxic, shimmering mercury was no accident. It marked a boundary, a line never meant to be crossed. Yet the team did not stop. For Gomez and his colleagues, the River of Mercury was not the end of the tunnel's story. It was only the beginning of something far darker. What they uncovered next pushed the excavation into the realm of true horror, the hidden tomb and its terrifying secret. As the team pressed past the mercury line and deeper into the tunnel, they confronted a final barrier. Stone block after stone block had been jammed into a narrow choke point and sealed with clay. Clearing it took days. When the passage finally opened, the archaeologists stepped into chambers that had not seen a living visitor for nearly 2,000 years. The air was stale and heavy. Their lights swept across the floor and froze, Bones lay arranged in ordered rows. This was no peaceful burial. Field notes and later reports describe skeletons with arms pulled tightly behind their backs, as if bound. Others were face down, limbs arranged in ways that suggested restraint. Cut marks scarred vertebrae in multiple cases, and several skulls were deliberately separated from their bodies. The pattern was unmistakable. Some had been sacrificed. Others seemed placed for a purpose that had nothing to do with a gentle afterlife. Mixed among the remains were objects that made the chambers feel even more hostile. Small statues in human form had faces that were wrong. Eyes too large. Teeth carved as fangs. Many heads were crested or feathered, echoing the serpent cult above. But the features felt predatory, threatening rather than divine. Jars lined the walls, sealed with ancient plugs. Residue samples taken on site reportedly contained substances that have yet to be publicly identified. Every step, every discovery, made it clear. This was a space designed to terrify and to dominate. A tomb, yes, but one that was also a warning. Something inside these chambers had been meant to remain undisturbed, hidden for eternity. A few containers held dark grains that some on the team speculated could have been poisons or binding mixtures used in ritual. That interpretation remains unverified, but one thing was clear. These jars were not food offerings. Shards of painted plaster clung to the chamber walls. Though small, several fragments depicted figures that were not fully human. According to reports, the figures wore feathered collars and bore scaled textures around their throats and jaws. Their eyes were drawn as slits. The scenes were not serene portrayals of gods. They depicted hunts, pursuits, and struggles. One fragment appeared to show ropes or cords drawn tight across a figure, as if something had been pinned down. Specialists who reviewed the photos disagreed about their meaning. Some saw myths about taming chaos. Others insisted these were warnings, not stories. Was this really a tomb or something darker than we can ever understand? Keep watching to find out. The sinister purpose of Teotihuacan. Several archaeologists argued that these chambers were never intended as tombs. The careful placement of bodies, jars, and imagery suggested a system designed to guard or contain, not to honor. A few went further in private, describing the rooms as a prison. The dead became the locks, the offerings, the seals, and the walls the final barrier between the city above and whatever lay at the heart of its power below. One researcher, shaken after a long day of cataloging, was quoted saying, "This is not a tomb, this is a warning." Their unease deepened when they examined the access points behind the chamber. Evidence of deliberate destruction was everywhere. A shaft beyond the room ended in a collapse that appeared engineered rather than natural, as if the builders had intentionally blocked the passage once their work was complete. The sealed jars, the rigid order of the burials, and the orchestrated collapse all pointed to a chilling conclusion. The ritual had been designed to be completed and then locked away, hidden from the world forever. If so, the last act of the priests was not celebration, it was containment. The emotional toll on the team was palpable. Reports describe long, quiet nights in the field lab, heated debates over how much of the tunnel to open and how much to leave untouched. Some members argued for a halt until every safety measure was in place. Others pushed to document everything and reseal the passage, rather than risk disturbing it further. The debate went beyond science. It became an ethical question. If an ancient culture went to such lengths to seal a place forever, what responsibility does the present have when it breaks that seal? That is the final weight of this discovery. The hidden complex beneath Teotihuacan does not read like a peaceful passage to the afterlife. It reads like a system designed to keep something in. Whether that something was knowledge, power, a feared object, or a belief made tangible through ritual, the message remains the same. Do not open. What is the origin of Teotihuacan, and how did it become the city of gods? Let's see. The ancient city of Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan is an ancient Mesoamerican city located in the Valley of Mexico, about 40 kilometers northeast of present-day Mexico City, in what is now the state of Mexico. Today, Teotihuacan is famous for some of the most important pyramids ever built in the pre-Columbian Americas, especially the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. Despite its proximity to Mexico City, Teotihuacan was not an Aztec city. In fact, it existed many centuries before the Aztec Empire. At its peak, roughly between 1 CE and 500 CE, Teotihuacan was the largest city in the Americas. Conservative estimates place its population at around 25,000 people, but some scholars believe it may have housed more than 100,000, making it one of the largest cities in the world at the time. The city covered about 8 square miles, and as much as 80 to 90% of the valley's population lived there. Beyond its pyramids, Teotihuacan is notable for its advanced urban design. It featured large multifamily apartment compounds, the Grand Avenue of the Dead, and vivid murals that remain remarkably well preserved. The city was also a major producer of obsidian tools, which were traded widely across Mesoamerica. The name Teotihuacan is also used to describe the broader civilization and culture connected to the city. While scholars still debate whether it was the capital of a true empire, its influence across Mesoamerica is undeniable. Archaeological evidence shows Teotihuacan's presence in regions such as Veracruz and the Maya world. Centuries later, the Aztecs encountered the ruins and believed they were the work of divine ancestors. They claimed a shared heritage with the Teotihuacanos and adopted elements of their culture, helping preserve the city's legendary status long after it fell silent. How did the Aztecs find this monumental city in the first place? Keep watching to find out. The mysterious city. How Teotihuacan was first found. When Spanish soldiers and explorers arrived in central Mexico in the early 1500s, they were searching for land, wealth, and new territories to claim. Instead, they stumbled upon something they could not explain. Rising from the highlands stood the ruins of a colossal city, vast, silent, and overwhelming. It seemed impossible that human hands could have built it. By then, the city had already been abandoned for centuries. Even the Aztecs, who ruled the region at the time, admitted they were not its creators. They called it Teotihuacan, the city of the gods, believing only divine beings could have constructed such enormous monuments. To the Aztecs, the city was sacred, but also unsettling. A place they inherited, yet never truly claimed. The mystery deepens because Teotihuacan left behind no written records, no names of rulers, no account of its founding, not even its true original name. At the heart of the city ran its main road, later called the Avenue of the Dead. Stretching more than 2 kilometers, this massive avenue was lined with temples, plazas, and palaces on a scale unmatched anywhere else in the ancient Americas. What's missing, however, is any clear progression, no gradual evolution to show how such a city came into existence. There are no earlier stages, no rough drafts, so the question remains, where did it come from? Surveys of the ruins reveal that the city was anything but random. Its layout was precisely aligned with the movement of the sun and stars. Entire neighborhoods were arranged in strict grids, evidence of advanced urban planning centuries ahead of its time. What followed after this? How did the city become so dreaded? Let's see. The truth behind ancient Teotihuacan. In 1864, scholars surveying a plateau near modern-day Mexico City made a startling discovery. What appeared to be natural hills were not hills at all. Beneath centuries of accumulated dust lay massive man-made structures. As excavations began, pyramids slowly emerged from the ground, their stone faces weathered, scarred, yet still imposing. Alongside them were the remains of plazas, palaces, and irrigation canals, revealing a city far larger and more advanced than anyone had imagined. 2 decades later, in 1884, organized excavations confirmed the true scale of the site. Archaeologists uncovered wide avenues, monumental temples, and evidence of precise urban planning. Reports at the time compared its grandeur to the ruins of Rome and Egypt. For many, that comparison was deeply unsettling. The prevailing belief then was that ancient civilizations in the Americas had not achieved the same levels of engineering or architectural sophistication as those of the Old World. Teotihuacan shattered that assumption. It stood as undeniable proof that a civilization in Mexico had once rivaled the greatest powers of antiquity. But early archaeology often came with serious errors, and some of those mistakes would prove devastating. In the early 1900s, a self-taught restorer named Leopold Batres was placed in charge of uncovering the Pyramid of the Sun. During his work, a tunnel was discovered, running from outside the temple toward its center, deep beneath the structure. It appeared to have been deliberately filled in, likely by the people of Teotihuacan themselves. But instead of approaching the site with care, Batres took a far more destructive path. He stripped away nearly 6 meters of the pyramid's outer stone. In doing so, countless sculptures, carvings, and possible inscriptions were destroyed, erased forever from history. Any clues that might have explained who built the city, how it functioned, or why it was abandoned disappeared under his hands. Today, many scholars describe Batres's work as one of the greatest archaeological losses in Mexico. Rumors still surround his actions. Some reports claim he may have been pressured, or even bribed, to eliminate evidence that pointed to darker or more unsettling aspects of Teotihuacan's origins. Whether those claims are true or not, the damage he caused is undeniable. Yet, not everything was lost. What was left, and how did it shape modern discoveries? Keep watching to find out. New discoveries about the Teotihuacan. In Mexico, new discoveries began to reshape what we thought we knew about the ancient city. For years, researchers dug beneath the surface, literally searching below the ground for answers. By the late 20th century, archaeologists had already mapped most of Teotihuacan above ground. They had measured the pyramids, traced the Avenue of the Dead, and excavated plazas and temples. Still, many believed the city's most important secrets lay hidden underground. Their attention turned once again to the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, the most richly decorated and most ominous structure in the city. Earlier surveys had detected strange anomalies near its base, and its religious significance made it the most likely place to conceal something extraordinary. Then, in 2003, nature intervened. Heavy rains caused part of the ground near the temple to collapse. When archaeologists investigated the sinkhole, they lowered instruments inside and quickly realized it opened into a hidden void. To confirm what they were seeing, they deployed ground-penetrating radar and small robotic probes. What they found was astonishing. Beneath the temple lay long, hollow spaces stretching deep underground. What initially appeared to be natural cavities were, in fact, a sealed tunnel, nearly 100 meters long, cut straight into the earth. The excavation was placed under the leadership of Mexican archaeologist Sergio Gomez, who began what would become one of the most ambitious and delicate projects in the history of Teotihuacan. When Gomez and his team began clearing the tunnel's entrance, they were stunned. The passage had not collapsed naturally. It had been deliberately sealed with clay, stones, and debris nearly 1,800 years ago. Someone had closed it on purpose, and whatever lay beyond had been meant to stay hidden. Soil analysis and pottery fragments mixed into the fill confirmed something chilling. The tunnel had been sealed during Teotihuacan's peak. This was no accident. It was a deliberate act meant to erase the passage from memory entirely. Some archaeologists believe the sealing was so thorough that the tunnel would never have been discovered without modern instruments detecting the hollow space beneath the ground. As excavation continued, the tunnel quickly defied expectations. It was not a natural crack in the earth, but a carefully engineered corridor. The floor had been smoothed. The walls were reinforced. Faint traces of pigment still clung to the surfaces, hints that the passage had once been painted. Branching chambers suggested a larger, carefully planned design. Yet many sections were packed tightly with rubble, as if someone had gone to great lengths to make progress nearly impossible. According to reports, it looked less like a tomb that had simply been closed, and more like a place that had been deliberately locked away. What did they find in there? Keep watching to find out. The terrifying secrets found in the tomb. As the team worked deeper, the atmosphere grew heavy. Gomez later described moments when the ceiling itself felt like a warning. One researcher put it bluntly, "It was as if they were speaking to us across centuries, saying, 'Do not open this.'" Still, the team pressed on, determined to uncover what had been hidden for nearly 2,000 years. And when they finally broke further inside, what they found was not peace. It was ritual. As Gomez's team moved deeper into the sealed tunnel beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, they did not encounter ordinary burial goods. Instead, they uncovered thousands of offerings, arranged with unsettling precision. Jaguar bones were stacked in specific sections, as if the animal itself had been sacrificed to guard the chamber. Razor-sharp obsidian blades lay scattered across the floor, their placement far too intentional to be random. Jade figurines rested beside seashells that had been carried hundreds of miles from distant oceans. Nothing here was accidental. All of it was proof that this was no ordinary deposit. This was a ritual staging ground, an extraordinary one. What do you think about the just-discovered tomb beneath the Teotihuacan? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for staying till the end. We hope you found answers to all your fears about the tomb hidden beneath the Teotihuacan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on more interesting stories like this. See you there.